this could be a very bad idea. Do this one-handed. This really heavy. I'm not big and strong like my ancestors in Serbia. They're about to fall. They're literally about to fall. I'm actually so impressed that that didn't fall. Fucking did it, man. For God's sake! Hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Skye, and today I'm going to be ranking all of my eyeshadow palettes. First and foremost, I want to apologise for the lighting situation. It is so overcast outside and I'm using the big light. Ugh. I don't know about y'all, but I absolutely hate, detest, despise using ceiling lights in any room. I'm always using a lamp. The big light is never turned on, but I was forced to use the big lamp today. And there's a bit of a weird shadow across my face, so I'm really sorry about the lighting, but I wanted to film so badly today because, my makeup today is stunning, if I do say so myself. And I could film this video without my glasses, but I need to see. So I have 29 eyeshadow palettes in my collection, which is quite a lot, but I love them all so dearly. I decluttered my eyeshadow palette collection not too long ago, and honestly, everything in my collection I really love. Like, I look at and I'm just like, yes, this makes me happy. So ranking these was so difficult. I truly do not dislike any palettes that are in my collection, but I had to rank them somehow, so some beat out the other ones. The top 5 was very easy for me. Like, I didn't even have to think about that. And yeah, looking at this list, I was actually quite surprised looking at what ranked higher than others, because things that were favourites for years are near the bottom, which is so interesting to me. But anyways, let's get on into ranking my eyeshadow palettes. Starting from the bottom, number 29 is the Colourpop Star Wars Darth Vader palette. I got this sent in PR when I was on Colourpop's PR list, and it is just a nice, cool-toned, grungy colour story. The reason why this is so low is purely because these are tones that I don't really reach for. The formula is brilliant, like, it is really good. The red eyeshadow, the red metallic, has something yet to be desired. It's not as metallic as I would like it to be, but most red metallics aren't. I am eyeing that new single shadow from Odin's Eye, Leon, which is that bright red metallic. I want that one so bad. But yeah, as a whole, while this does fill a hole in my collection, it's not really a colour story that I reach for too often. I am glad that I have it, but it's just not a favourite. And in number 28, we have the Nabla Cutie Palette Coral. This one actually kind of hurt my heart to rank so low. I mean, second lowest. But the reason why this is so low, despite me loving the formula of all of these palettes, by the way, is fantastic. Like, I'm not gonna, like, keep repeating myself because I feel like that's just gonna get boring, but just know I love the formula of all of my palettes. This is just really low because I don't tend to reach for 6 pans that often. 9 to 12 pans is, like, my sweet spot. I can mess with a 16 pan occasionally, but 9 to 12 is my sweet spot. I don't really reach for 6 pans that often. They're just not really... I don't know, they're cute, but I just don't reach for them. I love these two metallics, they are absolutely stunning. Red Shape I literally never use because it is just a red satin and I detest satin eyeshadows. It is a very cute, like, peachy pink red colour story, and it is adorable, and I do like the two neutrals in here, but I just don't reach for 6 pans that often. And we're continuing the trend with another 6 pan. This is the Odin's Eye Mini Skye palette. It looks like this on the inside. It is a 6 pan, like, mauvey, neutral, and purple colour story. I find that this is probably the most well-rounded Odin's Eye, like, 6 pan that they have done, because you have, like, a deeper shade, you have, like, your mid-tones and an iridescent, which, if there's an iridescent in a palette, I automatically like it even more. But again, I just don't really reach for 6 pans often, and usually when I do, like, a more purpley look, this isn't the first one I think to reach for, so. Number 26, can we guess? It's another 6 pan, and this is the Odin's Eye Mini Forest palette. This one reminds me of Legend of Zelda, these, like, green tones with the aquas. It's just so pretty. Like, I love this colour story. The shimmers are beautiful. Like, this colour story is definitely more me compared to the other palettes that I have already mentioned. Again, it's just quite low because it is a 6 pan. If this was a 9 pan format and it had, like, an iridescent, some, like, deeper green, like, mattes, like, if this was a 9 pan, this would be, like, way higher. I can already tell you. You know what's funnier than 24? 25. Number 25 goes to the Lethal After Dark palette. Now, this one was, like, my top favourite palette of... crap, what year was it? 2018? 2019? This is probably one of the older palettes in my collection, and it looks like this. And this was the first palette where I feel like Lethal kind of like found their specialty with their shimmers, and I feel like they've only improved since this one. And I haven't bought any Lethal eyeshadows since this eyeshadow palette, and I really like this colour story. It's really nostalgic to me. Like, it gives like 90s vibes, even though I'm an early 2000s kid, but it still reminds me of my childhood. But yeah, this is ranked really low because I just don't really reach for this anymore. I don't really know why. I think just other things in my collection outshine it, which is a shame because I really do like this colour story, and like the fact that these are singles, I can put these in with other palettes. Yeah. That's why After Dark is so low. Number 24 is another wonderful little six pan. I promise we have no more six pans after this section of the video, but we have the Kaleidos Sashimi City palette. This was sent to me in PR and I bloody love this one. This is the only Kaleidos Futurism palette that I've actually kept. It looks like this. It's just a really pretty like ochre salmon-y, like warm color story. Very neutral. I love the duochromes in here. I wish one of the two deeper matte browns was more different because I feel like they look very similar on the eyes. And yeah, this is literally the only Kaleidos Futurism palette that I have kept because, to be honest, like, I like Kaleidos' formula quite a lot, but again, I don't really reach for six pans much these days. And while I do want them to come back with this format because I think their six pans of all six pans that I've tried are the best ones out there, and the packaging is nice. It's an experience to use them. I don't know if they're ever gonna bring the Futurism series back. I think that's been like dead and gone for a while now. Number 23, we are moving on to a really gorgeous grungy one. This is the Shroud Arcana palette. It looks like this. I love this color story. I love the way it's arranged. I love for every matte there's a shimmer that matches it. Oh, this is a jewel-toned dream, and this is where I have like the majority of my jewel-toned like eyeshadows like are in this palette. And whilst I love this palette so much, it is really far down because quite honestly, the shimmers in here are just like your standard like shimmers. They're not really metallic. I mean, are they metallic? I mean, compared to what we're used to nowadays, like with other indie sparkly, like multichrome, duochrome eyeshadows, these are just flat and not really like, bam, not what I'm used to. So, I really wish Shroud would like reformulate this and like make the shimmers more impactful or something, because I feel like that would take this palette, like, revamping this palette, it would get really popular again. Anyways, Shroud's matte formula is impeccable, it is beautiful, but yeah, the shimmers aren't really standout-ish. Now we're moving on to number 20, I forgot, I lost count. We're moving on to palette number 22, and whilst the Shroud Arcana, those shimmers I wasn't really impressed with, and it's why the palette is so low. This palette, the Odin's Eye Elva palette, this palette, I absolutely adore the shimmers in it, and it's literally the reason why I have kept this palette. This is such a beautiful array of like neutral rosy shimmers that are so like sparkly and glittery and like twinkly on the eyes. I love it very much. However, this palette is very one note, I find, like despite it being like quite a large palette, I think this is a 16 pan palette, it doesn't really have a lot of depth to it, and the mattes in here, while they are okay, then they're not the nicest Odin's Eye mattes. I feel like they've only improved their formula like since. It's a very pretty romantic twinkly palette, but yeah, the mattes aren't what I really reach for in it. Palette number 21, we have the Luna Beauty Strawberry Dream palette. Oh, this was a gift from my friend Katie for my birthday last year, and man, it is gorgeous. It is a beautiful pink monochromatic palette with a pop of blue and like gold. Luna Beauty's matte formula is so good, man, and their shimmers are both like metallic and sparkly, and this like iridescent in here blue diamond is so gorgeous. And yeah, I really like the formula of this. I like to use these eyeshadows as blushes sometimes, but yeah, this palette is quite low because in all honesty it's fairly one note. Like, I kind of tend to do the same 3 looks with it every time I use it, which, I mean, those looks are gorgeous and pretty and I like it, but yeah, you don't really get too much variety in this palette. I do like how deep this palette goes. Like, it really does have a lot of depth to it, which I enjoy. Palette number 20. Now, this was a palette that was, man, this used to be like my number one for such a long time, but it's been beat out quite severely. I mean, it's number 20 out of like 29 palettes. It's the Odin's Eye Eleva 2 palette. This beautiful baby. I have pans in 2 of the shades. These greens are honestly like the main reason why I keep this palette around. And while I do love this color story speaks to me so much, I just wish there's so much of it that I would change, to be honest. For one, I would get rid of these pressed glitters and put like their normal like pretty twinkly metallic sparkly formula in there. I know that after this palette they just didn't do pressed glitters in any other palettes, which I'm glad that they like took their feedback, but I'm just sad that like the pressed glitters had to happen in like my favorite color story from them. Like, come on. I do not like how the deepest shades in this palette are shimmers. Like, this being a shimmer, like, no, change it to a matte. Like, if you want to keep this shimmer in it, fine, I do like this color, but at least have like a deep navy to anchor it. There are 3 satins in this palette, which I wish were just either a different shade of matte or their intense sparkly formula. I just hate satins, man. And yeah, unfortunately, like, I mainly keep this palette for this 9 pans specifically, minus the pressed glitters. So if anything, I just keep it for like the 7 pan. And I do have a lot of dips in this palette, and while it is very well loved, there's just so much that I would change about it. Like, I don't know, with time I've just kind of learned that I'm like, I'm a bit sad, actually. That makes it sound like I don't like this palette anymore. No, I really do enjoy it. It's just that there's so much that I would change about it, which is why it's so low. Moving on to number 19. Now, this one surprised me being so low because I thought that this was my favorite Fantasy Cosmetica palette out of the 3, but turns out the other 2 just beat it out quite a lot, actually. And it's the Bard palette, this one right here. This is a beautiful autumnal dream. I love that the mattes are in the 4 corners and like the shimmers are in this little diamond right there. I love the way this palette is arranged. The Bard like reminds me of the Bard's College from Skyrim. I love the theming, the formula is brilliant, but like, I don't know, out of other palettes, just beat this one out. That's really it. There's nothing wrong with the formula, I love it. And I don't really have any qualms with it. It's just, I just reach for other things. We're getting into that stage where like it's the middle ranking, and I think from like, yeah, from the Bard palette onwards, from now onwards, all of these palettes were really difficult to rank. I was like, oh, this is getting difficult. How do I like choose a favorite? Alright, palette ranked number 18 is the Sugar Pill Fun Size 2 palette. It looks like this, the sequel to the beloved Fun Size palette, and I really enjoy this one. I feel like they kind of like slightly improved the formula from the first one. However, I find that Player 2 and Power Up, like these 2 shades, they kind of layer a bit funny, so I don't know what that's all about, but the rest of the shades are fine. I love this quad right here. Like, honestly, I love dipping into this palette for those shades. And yeah, as much as I really like this one, it's a good sequel to the Fun Size one, but clearly I prefer the Fun Size one. But this is a really nice companion palette, and usually I actually try and whip out like this palette alongside the Fun Size one when I do a look, but I always like tend to just forget about this one and only use Fun Size one, which I think says something. Ranked number 17, and hopefully I'm keeping track correctly, hopefully, we'll see, is the Natasha Denona Love palette right here, which my camera does not want to focus on. Oh, you can see me in the reflection. Hello. It looks like this. This is the only Natasha Denona palette I have owned, and probably the only one I will own, to be honest, because none of the other palettes really truly speak to me. And while I said that the Strawberry Dream palette I found to be quite one note and I do the same looks with it, I don't find the same issue with this palette. Like, I find that there's so much depth to it, and the textures in here are really beautiful, and I think the fact that the pans are magnetic also helps, so I could, you know, use these with my single shadows. You have a variety of formulas in here as well. There are a couple of satins which I don't really use ever, but for some reason this palette, like, I just seem to get more variety out of it, which is why it beats out Strawberry Dream. and I really do enjoy it. And yeah, I think it's kind of extra special because it's my only Natasha Denona palette, and I'm like, I own Natasha Denona. Ranked number 16 is my newest palette in my collection, and I feel like once I play with this a bit more, maybe like it will jump up a few slots. I'm not too sure, maybe because it's new, I'm still kind of like getting to know it, feeling it around, but it's the Glaminatrix Glamorous palette. It's this absolute beauty. I love the palettes that Glaminatrix have done in this format. I really hope they keep it because it's just so good. And yeah, this palette, you have a lot of purples, turquoises, and like burgundies, and it is honestly like beautiful. Like this is very like, I was gonna say the word juicy, but it's not really juicy. It's kind of like seductive. That's a word that I never feel.
This is the saucy palette.
Very bizarre way of describing this palette, but this is a very seductive, like, sexy palette, I find. And the thing is, though, I love these colours. I, like, feel gorgeous anytime I wear them. It's just, I prefer other colour stories. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. I do need to do a 2 looks video with it. Let me know also, are there any palettes in this video that, like, jump out at you that you want me to do a 2 looks plus review and, like, talk about my thoughts in depth? Let me know if you'd like that because I want to revamp that series this year, and so, yeah. Do let me know. Anyway, ranked number 15 is the Fantasy Cosmetica Druid palette. This one is just gorgeous, isn't it, man? Like, I love these tones. It's such a beautiful, like, caca green, like, grunge palette. This is just so nice. I like this one more than the Bard palette. I don't know, these like kind of caca tones, as I like to call them, just sing to my heart so much. I love these 2 shimmers right here, and the mattes are beautiful. It's ranked number 15 because there are other grungy palettes that I would reach for over this one. Like, they're the ones that like jump out at me a bit more, but I still really love this one. And also the shades Bare Form and Regrowth. Like, these 2 shades, I just never use them. I'm like slowly losing my marbles. I've been recording for like nearly 40 minutes and we're only just gone over the halfway mark. Ranked number 14, and this one is another grungy palette that I don't think I'll ever get rid of this one. And even if I do, I won't declutter it, I'll just retire it because the packaging is literally the most gorgeous thing I've ever seen. And it's the Lunar Beauty Moonspell palette. This beautiful bitch right here. Like, this
Bitch.
I love her so much. I remember when I showed my boyfriend my like makeup collection for the first time, I remember I was like, hold this palette, feel it, experience it, open it, because this packaging is literally like the best packaging in my collection. And yes, he did listen to me talk about my eyeshadow palette collection and my general makeup collection for 2 hours, and that's how I knew that he was a keeper. But anyways, Moonspell looks like this. This is the worst palette to hold up to camera or take photos of because the background is like so reflective and nasty. Like, I think that's the only like downside to this packaging, is the fact that it's a bitch to hold up. I'm just gonna hold it like this, like a plate. I'm gonna hold it up like I'm a waiter. Hello? Your meal. You sit down at a restaurant and a waiter comes over to you bringing this, what do? Probably steal it because this palette is no longer available, which is a crime! It's a crime! It's the best Lunar Beauty palette that they've ever done. Like, I'm sorry, but it's true. But anyway, going back on track, come on, we're going back on track. This formula is just brilliant. Like, I love the matte formula, the colour story, the way it's arranged, it's so satisfying to me. And this used to be my #1 favourite grungy palette in my collection for the longest time, and it's still one of my favourites, but like, again, there are others that just beat it out. I do have, I have 3 grungy palettes that beat this one out. 3? Well, one's kind of grungy, but not really. Well, you'll see it. But yeah, I rather reach for those 2 over this one. But this one's just so stunning. I just love her. Although, except for this shade Hermione, she's a slag. It's shit. And it's honestly fitting because it's Harry Potter themed. Fuck you, JK Rowling. Now, number 13, this palette makes my heart sing so much, and I won't stick on it for too long because y'all already know my feelings towards this one. It's the Glaminatrix You Beauty palette. Bro, everything about this palette is like my favourite fucking thing. It's a palette inspired by Australia, made by an Australian brand, and as an Aussie away from home, it just speaks to me, and the shade names are all like slang. I've said that every single time I've mentioned this palette, so yeah, it's my little spiel that I always say when I show this one on my channel. I'm so sorry if you've heard that like 50 times. But yeah, this is what You Beauty looks like. It has beautiful multi-chromes in here, like G'day, Flaming Galah, and Old Mate. Like, they are just fucking fantastic multi-chromes. I just love the theming, I love the colour story, it's unique, it's fun, it's funky, it's fresh. My body is expelling the demons that have inhabited it. And yeah, the reason why it's not any higher is because I just prefer other colour stories just a little bit more. And also Whoop Whoop and Australia, these duochromes don't really tend to stick on my eyes that well. So I guess that's the only flaw of this palette. Ranked number 12. Pretty sure this is number 12? Rank number 12 is another limited edition palette, which I will forever fight Beauty Bay on, because why? Why do you make your £20 palettes limited edition? Oh my god, I've got a headache, I shouldn't have done that. And we know which one I'm talking about. It's the Wilderness palette, bruh. I bought this one, like, this one's kind of sentimental to me. A few of these palettes are sentimental to me, but I remember buying this one, like, right after my brand Rain Cloud Candles launched, and this launched around the same time, and I was like, you know what? It's fate. If you could change your fate, would ya? But yeah, I reached for this palette the other day to do like a really deep blue smoky eye, and Jesus Christ, I am reminded why this is just such a brilliant grungy palette. Like, you can do so much with it. The red mattes in here are some of the best red mattes I've ever used. The deep blues, like the deep shades in this palette are just so rich and pigmented and gorgeous. The shimmers in here, except for this one's a slag, but the shimmers in here are like that squishy formula that just are so like foiled and pretty on the eyes. Like, man, this palette's so versatile and so pretty, and it's the cheapest palette in my collection as well. I think it was like £12. Oh my god, it's in the number 12 spot as well. Is it number 12? I have had my eye on more like Beauty Bay £20 palettes, and I really want to get Love Notes, but I don't think it would add anything new to my collection. But yeah, these £20 palettes for Beauty Bay, they're just top tier formula wise. Ranked number 11. This palette, was this the first palette I ever received in PR? I think it was. This one is a beauty. This is the Kaleidos Escape Pod palette. Dude, they've changed the packaging on the inside a little bit, but the eyeshadows are still the same. Oh my godness. I have to hold it like this because otherwise the reflection's just gonna mess with it too much. But the mattes in here are beautiful. I love this colour story, it's so unique. The purples in here, both the mattes and the shimmers, like, that's what this palette really shines as. I mean, even the packaging is like mostly purple too. Like, the purples in here are like my favourite purples in my collection. The shimmers in here are those beautiful Kaleidos shimmers, so sparkly and beautiful. And yeah, the reason why this is ranked number 11 is because I use this one more than Wilderness, but also like a couple of the shades in here I just don't use. Like, I never use this shade, this shade, this shade, this shade, and this shade, and that one too. So I basically don't use 1/3 of the palette. We are officially in the top 10 of my palettes. My goodness. The top 10, I kind of knew what was gonna be in the top 10, but it was just about like where they were. This was the hardest part, because I was like, I fucking love all of these like equally as much, but it was very difficult, but we got there in the end. So ranked number 10 is the Glaminatrix Sandra Rose palette. This is the only Glaminatrix palette that I've purchased myself, and bloody hell I love it. I don't know if I've mentioned, but it's the mini palette, not the original, and also I have rearranged mine, so like the shade names do not match like where they're supposed to be. I've rearranged mine because I think this arrangement looks a bit prettier. I saw someone on Instagram do it, I forgot their username. Glaminatrix, I'm a slag for. I love them so much. And this colour story is so pretty. Like, it's such a beautiful, like, spring garden, I would describe it. I like the neutrals in here too. This silver is, like, ridiculous. I love the multi-chrome bloom in here. Like, it is so magical and beautiful. I love doing graphic liner with that one especially. The deep mattes in here are stunning. And yeah, it's ranked number 10 because I just use the other ones a little bit more. Number 9, this one is such a good one. It's the Shroud Creepy Cute palette. I really want to get the Creepy Cute too because I feel like I would like that one just as much as this one. But to be fair though, I did get the Sugar Pill Fun Size too, and I didn't end up liking it as much as the original, so maybe that's a sign that I shouldn't get the second one. But anyway, this is what the Creepy Cute looks like on the inside. I have so many dips in this one. This is one of the best pastel palettes ever. Like, Shroud's matte formula is just magical. It's so, so good. There's the Molly hair trapped in here. Get out! Get out, please! I'm carrying your love with me. And usually I reach into this palette when I know that I want to use this shade of green or this shade of like aqua, this shade of purple. Like, this is such a good companion palette for other looks. And usually, like, even if I'm using another palette and I'm like, oh crap, I need like a pastel-y tone that's not in here, I go into this one. Like, it's just such a good palette. And also this palette had my only black in my eyeshadow palette collection for the longest time, so I did reach into this black a lot, as well as Tombstone, this grey. Again, it used to be the only grey in my collection. This is just such a useful, like, versatile, like, grounding palette. I don't know what this motion is, but it's grounding. Bloody love Creepy Cute. I love the theming. The magnet also is, like, so strong. Like, it is, like, you have to, like, really, like, you can't tell, but you have to really, like, yeet it open. It's kind of intense. Alright, ranked number 8. Now, you know how I said the Fantasy Cosmetica Druid palette? How there were 3 other palettes that beat it out, and one of them is, like, kinda grungy, kinda not. It's this big boy. It's the Blend Buddy Cosmetics Surge palette. This big mama. She is a big queen, she is large and in charge, and I love her for it. It is the biggest palette in my collection. How many shades are in here, actually? 30. 30. That's the same as the Morphe palette. Oh my god, do you remember Morphe? Are they still in business? That's a throwback to, like, 2015. This palette is incredible. You got your pastels, you got your grunge, you got your neons. Blend Bunny's deep matte formula, like, I think along with Kaleidos and, like, Glaminatrix is my favourite, like, deep matte formula. Like, truly, this row gets so much fucking use from me because these deep mattes are just so saturated and rich and beautiful. The shimmers in here, this row, I only really like these two. The rest of them aren't, like, as impactful as I want them to be, but they have, like, recently, like, completely redone their shimmer formula, which you'll see in the other Blend Bunny palette that I own. But yeah, I completely understand why Blend Bunny was so hyped up, and I love this formula so, so much. And honestly, this is making me really want to try out the Blends palette, and I've kind of held off buying it because I do have, like, my other, like, you know, standard rainbow mattes in other palettes sorted, and I feel like if I got the Blend Bunny blends, I just would neglect the stuff I already own, and I don't really want to do that, but I completely understand the Blend Bunny hype. Like, this is just such a good palette. The only reason why it's ranked, like, not ranked higher is because sometimes I get a little bit overwhelmed with this. Which is another reason why I'm glad that I didn't get blends. Because as much as I love it and I love the neons, like, it's such a unique, beautiful palette, I do get a bit overwhelmed with it sometimes, just with how much you could do with it. I'm sometimes like, I don't know what to do. Give me a £12, please. But it doesn't stop the fact that this is an absolutely stunning palette. Ranked number 7. Now, this palette I fully thought was gonna be in the top 5, but it just scraped it. And it's the Sugar Pill Fun Size palette. The original, my little baby precious boy. Oh my god, I've got a pan in it and I've got so many dips going on. This is the palette when I want to have, like, your classic brights that can also be pastel. Like, these can be pastel and you can make them more bright. If I want, like, a classic standard little rainbow palette with a twist, this is the one that I reach for. I love this pastel green twitch. Like, Jesus Christ, it's my most used green in my collection, as you can see by the pan. And these eyeshadows are just so buildable and wonderful. It's such a good companion palette because I can just put other, like, magical shimmers on my lid. And yeah, I think that's the main reason why this palette isn't in the top 5, because I usually use this palette in conjunction with my singles, which I love doing that. But if we're just talking about palettes that we use, like, on their own, is that how I ranked these? Like, if you could make a complete look out of them? I don't know, but apparently that's what I thought when I was ranking this one here. I do like to do all matte looks with this one, but I typically like to pair this one with my singles. But yeah, it is such a good, tiny little, useful, utilitarian palette for me. I love fun size. This is such a good boy. I love it. Good lad. Ranked number 6, this is the palette that also just got out of the top 5, and it's the Geology Cosmetics Pilbara palette. Bro, I love this one. Another Australian brand that's inspired by Australia. Like, you can see all the dips that I have going on. I have Pan and Starry Sky, and I feel like I'm gonna hit Pan on Biff soon. I am just so in love with it, and I cannot tell you why. These tones just make me feel so stunning. I love the grungy olives in here. They're quite unique to my collection. The browns are like nice, interesting tones of browns, and the reds, it just complements like my skin tone, my hair color, all of that so nicely. And yeah, every time I wear this palette, I feel fucking gorgeous. Like, I feel beautiful, and I think that's why it's ranked so high as well. And it's a small little palette. I take this one traveling anytime that I have gone traveling, so I love this one. I love it. We have come to the top 5. I've been recording for an hour. My voice hurts. In 5th place, we have the Fantasy Cosmetica Sorcerer palette. Man, I love this one so much. And as we can see, do you see that? I've hit Pan and Polymorph! I use this palette today. I use these 2 shades, which are like 2 of my favourite shadows in my collection. I should do a video talking about my favourite eyeshadows in my collection, like both in singles and in palettes. I used these 2 shades today, and as I was using Polymorph, I hit Pan in it, so I'm like, yes! Of course it had to happen literally right after I upload the video where I show all of the pans in my makeup collection. Thanks. But I just love this palette so deeply. These 3 shades of that squishy, like, putty formula that's in the Wilderness palette that Colourpop Super Shock shadows are. The mattes in here are absolutely stunning, except for Wild Magic. Wild Magic just doesn't like me. It's a bully. It doesn't work for me. It darkens on my eyes. It doesn't blend. It's patchy. Wild Magic hates me, and it upsets me greatly. My god. The demons have left my body. There's a dual-toned multi-chrome in here, which is just so stunning. The shade Chaos I don't use that much. It's probably my least favourite shade along with Wild Magic. But apart from those, like, I just love this palette. It's like borderline neon. Like, this shade Innate is just so intense and just gorgeous. It's a magical little palette. It makes me feel like a little mage. Makes me feel like I'm part of the Mages College at the College of Winterhold in Skyrim. I have so much love for this one, and these like 2 duochromes are just so gorgeous. Ranked 4th place. Now this one, there was no question that this was going to be in the top 5. Like, absolutely no question in the slightest. And that is the Kaleidos Club Nebula palette that they did in collaboration with Angelica Nyqvist. This is the best palette Kaleidos has ever done, and nothing they have done since this one has topped it. But this beauty looks like this. I love the way it's organised. The deep mattes in here are literally so sexy, so gorgeous, so delicious and perfect. Everything I want in a deep matte is in here. Same with Surge, same in Wilderness, like, and same in the Glaminatrix palettes. Like, those deep mattes are just beautiful. The shimmers in here, beautiful, stunning, incredible, talented, wonderful, brilliant, all of that good stuff. And I feel like this colour story is so cohesive and so well organised, and it just inspires me to reach for it more. I'm actually surprised I have no pans in this one, because I love this one so much. So now we're in bronze. We're in spot number 3. What's gone into spot number 3, you may ask? Glaminatrix Nocturnal. Oh, my beloved. My boy. This is my boy. I gave birth to a boy. This palette looks like this, and honestly, I remember this is the palette where Glaminatrix like added me to their PR list like full time, and I was like, scream! This is the best grungy palette to ever exist, and it hurts me because it is limited edition. I don't think it's available anymore, or they're doing their last restock of it, but bro. The duochromes, the shimmers in here, fantastic. Constellation and Milky Way and Night Vision, they're some of the best metallics I've ever used. I love the inclusion of like this periwinkle shade in here. It just adds something a bit different to it. The grungy like browns and like the murky tones are just so good. This shade Shadow is such a good black. I love this palette so much. It's so inspiring to me. It gets me excited to use makeup, and anytime I want to use grungy tones, this is number one. This is the first palette I want to reach for. Actually, the other palette that's in the top 3 is also kind of grungy. So I guess... oh shit. Didn't think that. But yeah, anyways, this is one of the best grungy palettes that's ever been created. I will never part with her. And the packaging is so luxurious and beautiful. And also it's called Nocturnal, which again, in my little Skyrim-obsessed brain, is like my favourite faction. One of my favourite factions is the Nightingales. Is she a Daedric god, or is she like... yeah, she's a Daedra. She is a Daedra. She's one of the many women crushes I had as a kid, because... look. Beautiful. Ranked number 2. Now this palette I honestly did not expect to love as much as I did. Truly, when this palette, like, when I knew I was getting this palette in PR, I was like, it's beautiful. But I did not think it would be my second favourite palette in my collection. Y'all already know, it's the Glaminatrix Nearly Natural palette. Dude, how did this beat Nocturnal is beyond me, but like, the shimmers in here are out of this frick-fracking world. They're not multi-chrome by any means, but they are just so sparkly and twinkly. The different tones of neutrals in here, you have your mauves, you have your olives, you have your warm browns. Every single time I wear this palette, I feel like the most beautiful person ever. I feel the most, like, at my prettiest is when I wear this palette. The deep mattes in here are stunning, and just, you have, like, grey tones as well. Like, I love this. I'm also really hungry, so I'm kind of shaking holding this one up, and I'm kind of like, you know, I've kind of lost the plot at this point. But man, I really did not expect to love this palette as much as I did when I got it in the mail. I was like, oh, it is really pretty, but I don't know how much I'll use it. But this palette has like confirmed to me that I am a neutral boy at heart. I love colours too, just as much as neutrals, but I bloody love neutrals too. And I've worn this to a lot of like special occasions, so that also says something. It's actually the palette that I wore on my first date with my boyfriend. Maybe I'll recreate that makeup look for like a first date, Valentine's Day makeup look. That'll be cute actually, let's do that. And ranked number 1, we are finally here. What took the gold? What is the number 1 palette in my collection? And I fully thought Nearly Natural was gonna be number 1, but oh, it was so close. I think Nearly Natural and this palette and Nocturnal are basically tied for number 1. Like, it was so hard to choose between them 3, but you gotta. It's a ranking video, you have to choose. And the one that made it into gold is the Blend Bunny All Done Up palette. Dude, this is another palette that every time I wear it, I feel like $1,000,000. Like, even $1,000,000,000. I feel like I have married Jeff Bezos, murdered him, and stole all his money, and now I am the richest person in the world. And I will no longer be the richest person in the world because I probably would give that money away, because who needs that ungodly amount of money? But again, it's Blend Bunny, so you have your pastels, your mid-tones, your deeps, and your shimmers. And the shimmers in this palette are the same, like, basically the same formula as the Glaminatrix, like, Nearly Natural shimmers. Like, these are so twinkly and sparkly and, like, duochromy and pretty on the eyes. And there's a beautiful iridescent in here, like, you know how I feel about iridescence. The deep mattes in here are so stunning, and I think this palette beat out Nearly Natural purely because this has more deep mattes in here and has a little bit more variation. Like, you have, this is like a grungy neutral palette, so like technically I do have like more than like 3 grungy palettes, I swear to god. I love this palette so much, and this is also like one of the newer palettes in my collection, but this is like shocked all the way up to like one of my favourite palettes ever. It's just so fantastic, and I think Blend Bunny, like this palette size from Blend Bunny, if they do more palettes in this size, I would definitely buy them, because I think this is the perfect size in my opinion. It's like a 16-pan palette, isn't it? And with that, with Blend Bunny All Done Up, wrapping up my ranking, that is my palette collection ranking. We did it! I have literally talked about doing a ranking my eyeshadow palette collection video for so long, because I think the last one I did was like 2019. And we finally did it, and I'm so happy. I've been recording for an ungodly amount of time. And it's so dark outside. And despite the crappy lighting setup, I hope this video was somewhat enjoyable to watch. Do let me know, okay, what are your top 3 palettes? And also your bottom 3 palettes. If you have a bottom 3, please tell me. But anyways, that is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, do let me know what are your top 3 palettes and your bottom 3 palettes. I'd be really curious to know. And if you'd like to see more makeup content from me, then you can follow me on my Instagram. It's beautyybyskye right here. I post all my looks there and I'm active on there every single day. And you will see this look coming up soon. And just another, like, appreciation for this. Ugh. This is gonna be such a nightmare to remove. If you'd like to support me further, then I do have my own small business, Raincloud Candles Co. We are a small queer-owned business based in the UK and we make handmade candles. The link to shop will be down below, along with our social media if you'd like to support us. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I would love to have you here. And as always, stay safe, wash your hands, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!